This is Quick Clip 3.01 Chemistry, and in this first lesson of the unit, we review some of the concepts that we learned in the previous unit. So first, we're going to compare two chemical reactions, both of which involve hydrogen and oxygen. At the top, we see the hydrogen and oxygen combine to make two molecules of H2O. At the bottom, we see the hydrogen and oxygen forming a single molecule of H2O2. At the top, we have water. At the bottom, we have a substance called hydrogen peroxide. Now, the important concept here is that even though both substances are made by the same atoms or the same elements, hydrogen and oxygen, the arrangement of the atoms are different, and because of that different arrangement, both of these substances are very different and have very different characteristics and properties. For instance, water, of course, you can drink. Hydrogen peroxide, however, if ingested, could make you extremely ill and could possibly be fatal. So it's important to understand that the arrangement of these atoms create the different characteristics that substances have. Next, the lesson talks about how atoms are bonded. Before we do that, we have to understand valence electrons. And from the last unit, we should remember that the valence electrons are those electrons in the outer shell. In this example, we see that there are 6 valence electrons. And there is the tendency for atoms to always want to fill its most outer shell. So this atom is looking for 2 more electrons to satisfy that rule, and once it finds those 2 more electrons, the atom becomes more stable. Another way this can happen is in this example, where this atom only has a single atom or a single electron in its outer shell. Now, it could try to find 7 more electrons, but the easier thing to do is to just get rid of that one valence electron that's on the outside. So it's easier to lose 1 electron than to gain 7. Once that electron is lost, then it has a new outer shell. So the outer shell now that has electrons is filled with 2. Remember that that first outer shell is so small that it can only hold 2 electrons. So in this case, this is a full outer shell and is more stable. Keeping that in mind, let's go to our first type of bond, and that's the covalent bond. And in this case, the electrons are shared to fill each outer shell. It's important to note that both of these atoms are neutral atoms, and covalent bonds is a bond between 2 atoms. And so here we have the hydrogen atom bonding with the other hydrogen atom, and they are both satisfying the octet rule in that they have their outer shells filled. So here again is the covalent bond, and these 2 atoms are held together by the attraction between the nucleus and the electrons. So the attraction between the positive nucleus and the negative electrons make this covalent bond. Another way is an ionic bond, and in this case, atoms both lose and gain electrons. So on the left, we have a hydrogen with 1 valence electron. On the right, a fluorine with 7 valence electrons. But in this case, the hydrogen is just going to donate or give its electron to the fluorine. And since the hydrogen has lost an electron, it becomes more positive, and then since fluorine has gained an electron, it's become more negative. And here we have 2 ions, and we have a positive and a negative, and that is going to bond together and form a new molecule. And so again, we see that these 2 ions are going to form together in a molecule, and this would be an ionic bond, where the bond is between 2 ions, not 2 neutral atoms. And so, to review, the covalent bond is a bond between neutral atoms where the electrons are shared, and the ionic bond is between two ions and electrons are either gained or lost.